I will throw to Sean next because you recently finished this game, and it's a game that I really don't have any kind of knowledge or experience with. So, by all means, Sean, the floor is yours.
So speaking of bosses that you will get to that will make you want to quit the game, I played Sekiro. I beat Sekiro. It only took me fucking 4 days on the last boss. Yeah, so none of you played Souls games at all, no?
I finished Bloodborne and
Okay.
gave up on Sekiro.
Gave up. Where did you get up to in Sekiro?
I don't really remember. I was like 2 hours and I was just bashing my head against the wall. I'm like,
Yeah.
just no, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, so for people that don't know who I am, Mark, Jack, Garrett's only followed me on Twitter for a month, that's fine. And Dave, they know me as the Souls guy. I've gone through all of them. I've been playing Demon Souls since it came out. I've finished Demon Souls, finished Dark Souls 1, finished Dark Souls 2, my favourite game ever. Finished Dark Souls 3, finished Bloodborne. Only played Sekiro last month because I was terrified by how hard I thought the game was going to be. Sekiro is... If you've never seen Sekiro, it looks exactly like a Souls game, but with stealth elements and you can jump. And which is exactly what I thought it was. I thought I was getting into an RPG with a couple of extra little mechanics where the fight system was based around parrying, which is pressing the defend button as a strike comes in on you to open up the enemy so you can do damage, which is the hardest thing for me in any Souls game. I can't do it in Demon Souls, can't do it in Dark Souls 1, do it a little bit in 2 and 3, barely can pull it off in Bloodborne, and they based an entire game around that, so I was like, nope, not for me, I'm just going to let that one pass me by. And then in the summer of fucking 2021, Barry decided he was going to play Bloodborne, so I had to jump on, play Bloodborne with Barry, because he needed help, which made me go, okay, Elden Ring's coming out next year, so I'll play Demons, Dark 2, Dark 3, Bloodborne, and then I had a little gap. Like, okay, well, fuck it, it's time. I'll play Sekiro. And you know what? I was fucking right. It is the hardest game I've ever played in my entire life. I love it. I hate it. I'll never play it again. It's not an RPG, which is the issue. It's a stealth game-ish, but it's more like, I would say, a character action game, except you're not allowed to do too many moves at once. But you're building up a repertoire of like ninjutsu moves and samurai moves and things to sort of try and take on the various bosses you get in the game. You fucking never use any of them, really. You're just going in, you're fighting boss after boss, just using your normal basic attack and your parry button. And that's fine for like 50% of the game. You get through, you'll face boss after boss, you'll take 2 or 3 goes, you'll learn it, maybe take 5 or 10 goes on this boss. And then partway through you'll hit a wall. And I've never experienced anything like it in games where you die so quickly on an enemy that you don't learn anything from it. So you'll meet a boss, he'll kill you in 2 strikes, and then you'll have to work your way back to the boss, and he'll kill you in 2 strikes, and you won't have seen the pattern, you won't have known what happened, and you just fucking scratch your head and go, okay, well, I've either got to look at a tutorial or quit. So, playing Sekiro, I had about 14 windows open at all times with like tutorials and weapons and how to cheese this, and eventually got to the end of the game and I was like, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to record the other day, because I didn't want to not have beat the last boss before I spoke about it, because I'd heard that it would change how I felt about the game. Now,
Does the game have a difficulty setting, or is it just...
Right, no, so this is
Right.
People always go about Souls games need to have a difficulty setting for people that just want to see the story and play with you. And to those people, I'd say Souls games have a difficulty setting. It's called cooperative. You can call in another player and they'll help you out. Sekiro doesn't have that. So
Right.
you either learn it or you just stop playing. There's no there's no real way to empower your character to grind it out the way you would do in a Final Fantasy or a Souls game or something like that. So you've just got to be perfect all the time, and it's a massive issue with Sekiro.
There's two types of those types of games, where you have the one where you will constantly do runs and you'll pick up like abilities and power-ups or whatever that make the game easier the more times you play through it, and then there are those where just get good.
So you'll pick up like there's a system similar to Zelda Hearts where you pick up 4 items and you'll increase your vitality, and after certain bosses you'll increase your attack power, but they're quite limited. So the attack power is helpful because it allows you to get through a boss with having to do less hits. But I don't think the vitality is massively helpful, because most bosses are going to take half to a third, so try the third to half of your health with each hit, no matter what. So there's no point having a big massive health bar if you're going to die in 2 hits. It doesn't matter. Like, if he takes 80 and 80, well, you died at 100%. So it is a game hamstrung by seeming too much like Souls when it isn't. But also,
how is the game in terms of its checkpoints?
Checkpointing's fantastic. It's the same as any Souls game.
Okay.
It saves constantly. If you die, in fact, if you die, you go back to the bonfire equivalent, which are quite close together. And a lot of times they'll be immediately outside the boss room. Aside from the bosses, there's stealth stages and fighting stages, which are quite fun, and they're really great to go through and very enjoyable. And I wish the game had been more of that. And the boss fights aren't, like, I think I'm a little bit too pessimistic or too down on here. A lot of them are really fun, and once you learn them, they're fantastic. And beating a boss in Sekiro feels better than almost anything else in games. But I understand why so many people didn't want to even attempt it.
The second I hit that wall of like, oh, I can't grind.
Did you get as far as, was it the Chained Ogre? Maybe.
I can't remember, because
that's quite an early boss that I can imagine going, okay, I'm never coming back to this.
Yeah, because I love Bloodborne. It's one of my favorite games of the last decade, and I've never been able to get into another Souls game. Like, it's not that I've been I played 5 hours of Demon's Souls, the remake. I played a few hours of Dark Souls 3, a few hours of Dark Souls 1. Never gotten into them. But like Bloodborne, when you hit your wall, you just go grind. It's fine.
Yeah. You can, or you can go somewhere else for a little bit.
Yeah, whereas here, when you hit the wall, it's like, oh, there's no way for me to just put time into making this easier for myself. I just have to be good at it. And as mentioned, I hate parrying. I hate parrying in all video games. And also, Bloodborne is great because you can just get in things' faces and keep hitting it and then dodge and hit it some more. It's great.
And another good thing about Bloodborne is, if you're aggressive with a boss, if you take a hit and you're aggressive fast enough, you'll get that health back. Mm-hmm. Sekiro doesn't have anything like that. So with the Dark Souls games, you've got to be sort of, traditional playstyle would have you be defensive, behind the shield, throwing a sword out. Bloodborne sort of pushed it so that you would be aggressive more often, and you would try and get your attacks in. Sekiro makes it so that you have to be active all the time during boss fights, because it's got a split between a posture. So you can kill an enemy via 2 ways. You can either take away all their health or remove all their posture, so you can get a death blow on them. You will fill the posture bar by blocking their strikes and getting your strikes in. So a lot of bosses and enemies, it is a lot more expedient to try and break down the posture bar. So you need to be in on an enemy's face, blocking the fastest strikes you've ever seen in your entire life, trying to swipe back in the tiniest windows you've ever had, and you've got to be doing that all the time. It's a sustained perfection that you need to have, which very few games I've ever played need you to keep up with. Like, I don't think
does it at least have the thing where if you win, you get that sense of satisfaction, like in the usual Soul sense, or is it just like relief? Yeah.
So when I finally beat the final boss after 4 days of trying, I punched the air harder than I ever have, and I've got a jacked up shoulder all day today.
I was going to ask, like, to bring back to you there, to Garrett, because, like, if I recall, Returnal is similar in terms of, like, it's not a game about power-ups or anything, it's just you have to learn the patterns and get good, right?
No, you can, like, grind things out, because Returnal gives you paths between the worlds that you can take quite quickly. Or you can grind through the entire biome, and then you get a bunch of health pickups, you get a bunch of, like, more powerful weapons. They have, like, the system where the more enemies you kill, you get this adrenaline, and your gun is more powerful and can do more things. So, like, you can spend more, but it's a risk reward then, because if you get your ass kicked by an enemy, you might die.
But so, like, if you die and you go back to the start, it's like it is back to square one. You don't keep anything. There's nothing carries over. No,
I can't remember the exact specifics, but there is stuff and power ups and stuff that does carry over, and you can spend some currency on getting different, more powerful items.
But so how is that then compared to, like, Sekiro in terms of like how lenient are the bosses in terms of giving you that time to kind of actually at least try and figure out what the patterns are? Or is it kind of similar to Sekiro where you get smothered and ambushed in seconds?
Like, I didn't find much difficulty near any of the bosses in Returnal. Like, the last boss I beat in my first try. No, I beat, like, there's 5 bosses, I think, 5 or 6, and I beat 2 of them on my first try. Like, I don't think they're that hard in Returnal. It's just, I think the act of getting there is harder than the act of actually beating the boss itself.
Right.
As opposed to Sekiro. And you only have to beat all the bosses once in Returnal, for the most part. Because then you can just skip past them to the next biome. So once you beat them the first time, you don't have to beat them every single run. But yeah, like, I hit that wall in Sekiro, and I was just like, just no. this is never going to be. I like, before I uninstalled it, I was like, I'll give it one more go, and then, like, 2 minutes later, it's like, nope, it's being uninstalled.
Yeah, once you work out how to beat the boss and you can pull it off, it feels like nothing else. Like, it's you feel like you could go on Awesome Games Done Quick and play anything. You'd be like, okay, that's me. But getting there is arduous.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling. I mean, it's on a much lower scale, but the Metroid Dread bosses fall into that kind of... You really do have to learn the patterns, but once you get to the point where you learn the patterns, it's actually not too difficult to beat most of those bosses without taking any hits.
Yeah, you can no-hit it. And, like, I love Sean's point about, like, the health in Sekiro being kind of useless. It's the same in Metroid, or it's like, you've gotten 2 new energy tanks, but also everything you come across hits 4 times harder. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it's egregious in Sekiro, especially why I wanted to wait to fight the last boss, because the last boss is unique in that it has 4 phases to it that you have to kill the boss 4 times. And for 2 days I could beat the first 2 phases, and I had no idea what to do on the 3rd phase. And then for an extra day, I could do 1, 2, 3. And then I got to the 4th phase and I beat the 4th phase on the first time. So there needs to be. I think it was someone on Bonfire Side chat called it the "I get it" button, where if I can beat the first 2 phases of a boss reliably over and over again, stop fucking making me fight them, because I'm just tired and I've run out of resources by the time I get to fight what's still on its own. The 3rd phase on its own is still a tough enough boss that it can wipe you out, even if you come in full.
I can't think of a game in particular, but it is one of those things where you know that this boss has multiple phases, and you get to, like, the 2nd or 3rd phase, and then when you die for the first time, you're like, alright, what is this game going to be? Is it going to make me go back to the start, or is it just going to stop here? And I am at the point now where I will always rather just let me fucking, if this is like a checkpoint, please just give me that so I can have another crack at it.
You know what the best game is for that? You're not going to believe what I'm about to say. It's the remake of Disney's Castle of Illusion.
That is a very specific shout. I've not played the remake.
For doing it.
I've definitely played the original, but I've not played the remake.
I played about 2-3 years ago, and it will bring you into a boss at, like, the last phase that you didn't beat.
Yeah,
but I think it's interesting, kids.
Yeah, well, it is, but still, some of those Disney games are pretty tough.
Yeah,
and it's the same.
This is nowhere near as, like, it's not on an Aladdin.
No, of course not. But it is interesting, like, because there are certain games, again, to kind of bring up to Cuphead, where I prefer, like, I'm happy with I think it depends on the boss and it depends on how long those fights are. Because, like, a Cuphead boss fight, realistically, doesn't actually last longer than about 4 or 5 minutes if you know what you're doing. But if you've got like a boss fight that can go for like 20 minutes and it's broken up into multiple phases, I think at that point, it's understandable or it's fair if you're asking like, look, just fucking break this up into sections at this point, you know?
Yeah.
I do think that plays a big deal into it.
Yeah, I think if I'd have gone into that last boss fight and it had been 2 phases, I think I'd say, even with the difficulty of getting there, with the few criticisms I've got over the parts of it, I'd have maybe said it's my favourite. I'd either put it over Bloodborne and 1 or 2 of the Dark Souls games, but that last boss is just fucking... It's the thesis that he had throughout the rest of the game to an extreme, and it's too far. I can't sustain perfection that long, that often.
Yeah. But also Bloodborne didn't make you throw out your shoulder as well, so it's got that going for it.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you just got to throw out your shoulder. In fact, so just to sort of contrast this, today I went and fought the last boss of the second DLC for Dark Souls 3. Beat it first time. like that to me before was an insurmountable monster that I could never get near. But this 3 weeks of playing Sekiro, my reflexes is too fast.
You've reached an elevated level, you know?
I don't like it. I don't want to be Super Saiyan 10.